Let's welcome the pride of Port Elgin, Ontario, and many more places, Jason Irwin. One more time, and the clock starts now.
That's a test, test, test. Can everybody hear me okay? Not too bad for volume? Good? So let's get ready to roll here in just one sec. I'm just going to scratch on him a little bit. Again, if you were here this morning, you know this guy isn't just sometimes the easiest horse to catch, so he's usually just a shade better about me being on his left eye, so I probably will try to catch him on the left eye again, much as I did here this morning. And exactly like this morning, though, if he's just not going to allow it, then I can do something else. So it's not like this is the only game in town. But then again, if I can just go ahead and catch him, obviously that's what I'd kind of like to do here. Good. So I'm happy with that part. Obviously, if you're here this morning, it took me maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes, maybe up to 10 minutes. Didn't exactly count, but just to get a feel for, get a little bit of a connection going with him and get him caught. So I'm just going to play around with a couple of the things that I did this morning, but I'm just going to go a little quicker on them. So you're going to see me again. I'm going to back up a little bit, draw him to me, and pet on him. Again, I want to get this guy easier to catch just because he is sometimes just a little tricky about that. I'm not going to spend near as much time as I did this morning on it. But again, I'm going to draw him to me. And you're going to see me lift my hand sometimes. That's just as sort of a block to tell that colt to stop moving. We do that in our Liberty program quite a bit using whips. We'll hold them up. That way there they can see the horses on a stop cue from a big distance. Now I'm just going to play around here a little bit with getting this horse moving around me. And this morning, he didn't really step out all that willingly in the beginning, but he got where he was getting better by the end. So like right here, a little stuck there. But that's a lot better than he was doing. Then I'm going to yield his hindquarters, lift my elbow up just so he doesn't get in my space, and then I'm happy with that part there. Same thing on this side. I'm just going to go through, put a little pressure on. That pressure might even just be my lifting my arm there a little bit. As soon as he goes, I'll just take that pressure away. And that's a lot freer than he was this morning. This morning, he did not want to step out at all. That's a lot better. Again, just yield those hindquarters. That wasn't a perfect yield. That was maybe a little roundabout, but at the same time, I'm looking for things to be happy about, not things to be unhappy about.
Jason, have you had a chance to sit down between your spring tune-up clinic, your trailer loading clinic, and your 2 sessions? You're a busy guy here today.
Well, you see, the trick to that is I was to be in the spring tune-up clinic, and the secret behind it is when you're going to miss one, have a wife that's more talented than you, which I happen to have. So she actually went in and did the clinic for me. I always kind of say, Bronwyn is the smart, good-looking one in our partnership. People are starting to realize she's also the talented one. I feel like Jason might be kind of moving out of the horsemanship thing as she takes over.
Well, you'll be able to carry her saddle for her and make sure she's got all her tack.
That's true. I do have 1 or 2 talents left, but so I'm just going to, same deal as this morning. I just kind of rub on this guy with the pad. I'm not worried about, excuse me, I meant to say the tarp. I'll do it on both sides this time, though, because earlier on
Look
there,
at that. He rubs and rubs
sides.
and rubs, and the tail goes up, and as he keeps rubbing there.
Found just the right spot.
Does that happen every time?
Big release.
Yeah.
That right there, I'd like to draw that over top of his ears. Thing I didn't touch on this morning, which I might just start playing with here a little bit, is getting this horse used to a bit of noise. So same deal. I'm just going to kind of walk away as I do this and just kind of get him used to it. Exact same as this morning. When I introduce something scary, I tend to back away as I introduce it. Now, same deal. I'm showing it on one eye, then the other eye. And again, you can see he's kind of stepping up to this pretty decent. And then I'll just start playing around Kind of a little bit on the side there. That was actually more in front, but that was pretty good. I'm not going to worry about going any louder than that at the moment. Well, maybe one for luck. So we'll just do that. Same deal as this morning as well. I'm just going to play around as if I was putting the saddle on by getting him used to feel something around his belly. He already did feel that this morning, but I'm just going to touch on it again. I'm going to let that rope feed down like so, kind of yield his hindquarters over. And then at some point here, I'm going to catch this with my foot, just sort of like that, so that I don't have to lean over and get in a position where I could maybe get kicked or something. So I'm just going to kind of wiggle this around on him. Now he is moving, and I am not going to try to stop him, because being totally honest, I don't care if he's used to feel the pressure while he's standing still. I care that he's not going to have a little bit of a meltdown if he feels it while he's moving. So if he wants to move, I'm totally okay with that too. I'm going to do like this morning. I'm going to put a little solid pressure on here, so you might not be able to see, but I've twisted this around his belly, and now I'm turning it so he's feeling that tightness, and you can see his head raise up a little bit there. Didn't love it, but I'm just letting him go around feeling that tension. And when I feel him soften just a wee bit, kind of like that, that's when I'm going to take that pressure away. So I'm just going to step out here. Same deal. Pad just on and off a few times. Wiggle it around. I don't try to sneak the pad on. Just kind of tap around on him again, much like this morning. The old saddle ready. I really should learn to ride in an English saddle because they're a lot lighter and a lot easier to ship on a plane. But I just happen to like this one.
That'd be a bold move, first ride in English saddle.
Let's wiggle that around. Now, same deal. If he was to jump right now, I would just pull the saddle off if I could. Once you start to do it up, though, you're sort of committed. So right here, I'm still good up till this point, and I could pull it off if need be. And I would rather do that than have him get it under his belly or something. But once I pick up the cinch and start to do it up, then I'm kind of past that little point of no return. And he's just a little funny about his face. So I don't want to do it while he's kind of like that. So I'm actually trying not to pull on his head, if possible here. No. Same deal. I'm going to draw up, get this snug enough that I feel like it's not going off him, and then just going to do this up fairly snappy. I was about to say I'm going to reach for the back cinch with my foot. I was going to explain why, but I think you just saw why. So I'm just going to let him get stopped here. Kind of catch that. And get this done up to where there's just some tension, but it's not really putting too much pressure on him. Same deal, I'm going to keep his head just a little high. So if I could prevent him from bucking, I would like to do that. At the same time, I got to be careful that I'm not close enough to him, that if he does something wrong. And you'll notice here, I'm kind of flicking the saddle, not the horse. There. Now, if he was to buck, what I'm going to do is that. Just not a full hindquarter yield, but just a little partial yield just to try to pull him out of it if possible. Having said that, though, I have to be darn careful that I don't do a full yield because I don't want him to be bucking, then turn, face me, and run into me either. And I'm just going to make a point of doing this up one notch at a time. That way there they get used to the feel of it without it being too big a deal at any one point. Now I'm going to try to get this boy here to follow the fence a little bit. There we go. Wasn't the fence, but he's moving out now. It's going to send him around. And I'm going to get my stick here just because there we go. There we go. Now, right there, he did figure that out a little bit, so I'm just going to take pressure away. I don't want him to think I'm just hounding him for fun. So that's pretty good there. I am going to move him out the other way as well, but I'm just going to wait a second. Going to go ahead and kind of play around with the bridle again. This time, I'm not going to run through the preparation steps as much. But I am going to do what I did last time. I have this bridle just extended a little bit long just to make it slightly easier to get on his head. So I'm going to put that under his chin. And this boy here is a little funny with his face. I may extend this a little bit more in just a second here. Now I got to be pretty quick to do the bridle up a little snugger, just because that was so low he could have spit the bit back out again. But this colt here, he's a little touchy about his mouth, so I don't want to have it. I want him wearing this snaffle pretty early, because it's going to take a little time for him to get good with it. So I want him wearing it as much as possible. And there we go. Now I'd like to neaten his forelock just a hair if I could, just so it's not under there catching. Now what I'm going to do is take this lead rope off and start kind of working on getting this horse to guide a little bit again. I'll just pick up lightly, bring him around, sort of like that. Lightly, let go. If at any point he kind of cuts loose, I need to get out of the way. Good. Now he's a little stuck there, so I'm going to ask him to step aside. Good. Saddle's kind of slipped a little bit on him. Now, something I touched on this morning, I didn't have a ton of time to follow through on it though. I'm going to run this rope around him like that, and then ask him to turn like that. So I'm running the rope around his far side, and then asking him to turn on the ground. Kind of like so. Well, I was going to say like so, but not just yet. There. Good. Now I might as well send him over some poles, so I really look like I know what I'm doing. Thank you. That was all on purpose. The rest of you didn't catch that. So I'm just going to go over here, maybe one more time. A little quicker than I wanted. There we go. I'd like to do, that was going to be my last one, but I'd like to do one that's just a little softer than that. This time here. There. Now, it might not look it, but that was quite a bit better. He kind of hit the end of that and gave to it a lot more willing that time. So I'm just going to switch, go on the other side here. And I'm just going to start asking this colt to give to this side. That one was pretty good. Draw him back to me. He's a little stiffer maybe on this side. That was pretty good. That was pretty decent. Now we're going to play with the same exercise. I have not done it on this side before, so this might take him a second. Do you want to really show off and walk over the bridge? Okay, now this time if I tell you that was planned, will you believe me? Last time you're all like, yeah, I think you got lucky. That was pretty good right there. This Colt has a lot of forwards, so when I'm trying to do this exercise, he's tend to kind of wanting to run by me a little bit. But in some weird ways, that's actually helping me just a little bit. I'd like to get one more on this side. Now he's a little stuck there. This might take him a second to think his way out because the panels are there too. It's going to make it just a shade harder. So I might get a little bit more on this side right there. That's very nice. Good. So I'm tickled with that part. Now, again, I'm just going to touch on a couple of those things again, just real quick. That was better than it was a few minutes ago. That was better than it was a few minutes ago. So again, I'm happy with that part. Put this over here.
The tassel on the whip breaking the sound barrier makes that sound. Everybody knows that anyway, I'm sure.
When you're learning to work one of those things, you also find out how much it hurts when something passes the sound barrier. So I'm just going to slip this on him. Now something I'm going to play with the reins, now that I have the actual reins on, I'd like to start working on backing up because I figure if they can back up, I can get them to stop. So I put that little pressure on as soon as he moved his feet like he did right there, I let go. A little more pressure on him as soon as he moves his feet like that, I let go. So I just want to play with that for just a few more seconds. Pressure, release. Pressure, release. That's all you really need out of one. Now, the other thing I sometimes do, though, is to get it where it's a little bit more like what it would be on the horse's back. So I'll throw the one rein around like so, pick up on the horse, there. As soon as they take one backward step, I let go. And it was a little bit sideways, but to be honest, I don't care about that. As long as they're going backwards, that was sideways, sideways, sideways. There. That was just a wee bit of backwards. Again, that's there. Good. So I'm pretty happy with that part there. Just going to check the cinch again. And this Colt does tend to suck up quite a bit. I've pulled this up several times now. Always just 1 or 2 notches at a time, but he does tend to suck up just a little bit there. So I'm just going to get some of these goodies out of the way so I don't have too much stuff kind of blocking her view. See if I can get you over this one more time, but if at any point they're pawing something you want them to get over, let them paw it. I look at it as if they're curious enough to be pawing it, then they're not that scared of it. So I'd rather let their curiosity help me as opposed to hurt me. So a lot of times stuff like this, if they're doing something, I simply get out of the way. I'm going to keep his nose straight to this, but I'm not going to really try to get him over it. Sort of like so. So that's pretty good there. So happy with that part up till this point. Gonna check this cinch one more time. And again, I don't really want to be too close to this bridge.
Was that? To take the bridge out? Oh, I think so. Yeah, whatever the judges.
So I'm just going to stand here for a quick second, pet on him, step down, pet. I want you all to know I have full faith this is going to go well. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Gun! So I officially made 8 seconds and then some. So now there's 2 things I can do here. three, I could fall off. I forgot that one. But two things I can do, I can either just kind of let them step forward. The good about that is it's easier. Spoke too soon. I'm gonna ask this guy to go this way though. There. So what I was gonna say there is I can just kind of let the horse move out, which this guy has a lot of go, so I think this is gonna be our option. If they were very sticky, what I do instead is I'll just start turning them to one side than the other. Having said that though, this colt here, he's a lot more go than whoa. So I'm just gonna rub on him. Every time, for the next minute or so, if he wants to stop, I'll just stay here and kind of rub on him. So I just kind of rub on his butt. He's obviously a little stuck to this gate. He knows this is kind of where he goes in and out. The problem is I don't want to be stuck to the gate, so that's why I would kind of like to move out of here. So again, I'm just gonna kind of let him move around. If we're going back and forth a little bit, that's not the end of the world, but if we're here much longer, oh, he's thinking we're gonna train for jumping. This time I'm not gonna let him go that way if I can. I'm just gonna kind of rock him off balance and turn at least that way. So we're headed back to the gate, but I'm just gonna kind of keep him shuffling around and try to gradually ease away from there. I bet you without using any pressure, I can teach this horse to stop over here. That time I just kind of helped him through. And something too, when I'm up here, I'm gonna stay alive. And what I mean by that is I'm not gonna lock down, brace up if I can help it. Easier said than done, but I wanna keep a little bit active up here. So sometimes you'll see me just kind of rocking my legs around. I'm not kicking them to go, but I don't wanna freeze here because I feel like if I'm frozen, he's a lot more likely to have a little bit of a freak out with me here. I think if I sort of stay alive and as relaxed as possible, he's a little stuck to the side. There. Here, there. So that part there was a lot better. Might not look too exciting, but we got away from his little sticky spot. Now, normally I just kind of let them do whatever they want, but actually I'm not going to let this guy stop at the gate anymore because I don't need a problem that I got to fix afterwards. So he wants to step out. I'm just going to go ahead and go with him here. There. I'm just not going to let him stop at the gate. He can stop anywhere else other than the gate. And then just gonna have him kind of move out again. Want to see how we do the rails? Done. Again, all my idea. Just gonna have him try to go around the other way here a little bit. A lot of times if you just kind of slap your own leg, that's just enough stimulation to get them where they'll go ahead and step out. So if you see him slowing down here, I might just kind of go like this. And you can kind of see he just steps on by it without too much trouble. So I'm just gonna let him carry me around here for a minute. And then I may, once we get over there, ask him to walk. Not here. So just try to get him to walk now. Oh, he's beat me to it. I'm just gonna pick up on one rein and kind of guide him around. Just sort of like, here. Now he's got a little stuck on me. There. There. So as nice as it is that he's stepping out and trotting for me, I also want to have it where he'll walk around and be relaxed. Another thing I can do is pull his nose slightly to the outside like that towards the rail. That's just enough sometimes to slow them down, and he kind of did that pretty decent. So again, I'm just going to kind of ride around here for a minute and just cruise. Obviously, I'm trying to teach him quite a bit of stuff, but I want him relaxed with me under saddle. Everything else I can live with as long as he's calm with me sitting up here on him. So if he's riding around relaxed, I just want to kind of go for the ride as best I can. Another little trick I'm going to do here is when he starts to turn a little bit on his own, I'm going to pull in the direction that he was going to turn anyways and start trying to trick him into thinking what I asked for was his idea. So when I feel him getting ready to go one direction, so here, I'm just going to guide and go that direction anyways. And he'll think, what a good idea. I thought we should do that too. And then, so that way there, you don't have to pull on them too much, because even though I have the snaffle in him, I really don't want to be pulling on his face very much if I can help it. So I'm just going to have him again cruise around. Anytime I feel like he's going to change directions, I'm going to pull in that direction and go whichever way he was going to go anyways. So now we're just going to run into the panels. There, you want to go a little that way, so I'll pull that way. Now I'm just going to step him back up with a little speed here. This is our sticky spot. I don't mean to brag or anything, but let's kind of let him settle back down on his own.
Don't forget to breathe, Jason.
What's that?
Don't forget to breathe.
Yeah. What are you talking about? I'm perfectly calm with this. I know exactly what was going to happen before it happened.
All three of these colts have taken that first lope the same way, just smooth and kind of float around the round pen.
But did they jump stuff while they were doing their first lope? I think not.
I got to give you the W on that one.
And we're training for trail class at the same time.
You're going to lose your badge there, partner.
So I'm just going to draw.
Yeah, they won't let you in tomorrow if you haven't got that.
Out of it and be relaxed about it. So I'm happy that he loped, but at the same time, I'm not going to push on it, because when you get a good thing, like I keep saying, you don't want to then waste it by having arguments that are not necessary. So I was going to try to be tricky there, but we didn't get it. And we got that part. And again, here too, if he steps out, as long as he's not turning back here at the gate, which again is just a little thing, it's not a big deal, I just don't want it to be there. But every time I can, if I can just let those reins swing, then I'm just going to let him do that. So again, I'm just going to cruise around, see if we can't get this one more time there. Just kind of like so. I'm happy with that part there. So now, just kind of mix this up a bit. Something I like to mess with a little bit here is I'm going to take and intentionally start riding just a little bit silly. So what I mean by that is, first I'm going to ask him to pick up this tarp and hand it to me. And then once I get done with that, what I'm going to do is just kind of flop around a little bit. So what I mean by that is I'm going to intentionally ride a little bit all over the map, because when it comes down to it, if you're a trainer, you're not really training anything for yourself. No one pays you to ride a horse that you train. They want to ride it themselves, obviously. So you have to have them used to different things. So right now, other than once we get over this tarp, I'm just going to kind of swing my legs back and forth and just kind of let him feel that. Once we get going here a little faster, I might kind of pop up and down the saddle, but just a little bit, I won't say rough, but just kind of flop around like this. And just kind of wiggle my legs everywhere and just get it where he's absolutely tolerating a little bit of silliness. Just because sometimes if you ride your colts like you're being really, really careful, as soon as somebody gets on and not careful, the colt kind of comes undone a little bit on you. So I intentionally ride just a little bit sloppy, just so that they can kind of get where they can handle that. So I might even practice, 1 second, I'm getting stuck again. I might even practice like I'm riding English. If you think this looks the part, let me know. If I get really good, I might work on dressage. I think it's, 1 second. I think it's supposed to look like this. Good. Again, everywhere except this gate.
I think it's really great having this great big screen up behind us. And like if you're out in the arena, you could be out there and look up there and see yourself get bucked off.
Thank you for that.
They might even have a replay on it like they do in hockey and baseball.
He's getting just a little stuck here. I'm just going to get away from him for a second and just let him move out. I'm not going to ask him for anything in particular here, again, other than the gate. You keep forgetting that part.
Looks like you're going to have a hard time keeping him off the obstacles. Every time he walks by that tarp, he makes a point to stomp on it for you.
Maybe that will come back to help me.
That might help you out, yeah, in the long run, you bet.
So I'm just going to hop off here for just a second. And I know the tarp is one of the things we got to mess with here at some point, and we've already pawed it a couple times. I'm just going to see if he'll lead over it. And that's pretty decent. Now, a lot of the times I will take and I'll send horses over things eventually, but I do tend to actually just lead them over if they'll let me, just because I figure sometimes with the sending in the early stage, I feel like sometimes they're trying to figure that out and the obstacle, where if they already know how to lead, I feel like I don't have to do that as much. Now, he's kind of playing with this, so if he was going to be where I need to pull him a little bit more, I would switch and just use the lead rope as opposed to the bridle here, because I don't want to pull on his mouth very much. So I'm just going to put you there. Going to grab one of these. I might ask him to back up a step or two. I might not do it under saddle here today, just because there, that was a heck of a lot smoother than last time. So I'm very tickled with that, other than I don't want that tarp under his belly. So I'm going to pick up on him again here. As soon as that colt takes that backward step, right away, I'm going to get away from it. So another thing I can mess with too, I might not get real far with it, we'll just see. I'll just kind of start swinging the whip around. Now, being honest, a better way sometimes is just to kind of move your arm around like this a little bit while sitting on them. It's just a way to get them used to something moving around. Later on, you can just take the end of your rein sort of like so, spin it around a few times, then let it out a little bit farther, a little bit farther. Do that on one side, then the other, exactly the way you did on the ground. Little bit. And then you can take over both ears, just sort of like so. He's being pretty good about that. If he wanted to walk while I was doing that, good. If he wanted to walk while I was doing that part, I'd be totally fine with it. When I switch to the whip, I'll just swing around gentle here for a second at a slow speed. And if I feel like they're good with it, I may just give a little flick about that loud. Ain't gonna be very loud at all, just basically where the air moves just a wee bit, and then just have him kind of walk off again. If he got upset by that, I would just go back to whirling the rope around, and I probably wouldn't go any farther if I didn't need to. Now, one thing, oh, thank you. Those little pops, I'm just switching hands here because we're close enough to the rails that I can't really do this right-handed, even though I am right-handed. I'm just going to have him step out of here again. No gate. There. Oh, spoke too soon. Actually, I'm just going to press on him a little bit. I don't care which way he goes. I just want to get him away from here. There. So I'd like to turn right here, just because, again, I know he's trying to sneak back. And ideally, I would like to walk around the pen like so. Excellent.
Hey, Jason, you got 10 minutes left in
10
this
minutes?
session. 10 minutes.
Pretty decent. They could go a little louder if he quit getting me into the rails here. I'm going to see if we can't hit this little bridge one more. Well, I was going to say hit the bridge. We literally hit the bridge. I'm going to bend this guy around and see if I can't bend him to a stop. Just going to pick up gently until he finds a place. Again, this guy's a little harder just because he sort of takes his tension out through his face. See if I can pet on him again. Something I'm going to do, you can see that kind of bothers him a little bit when I touch him on the rump. So I'm going to actually make a point here of leaning back and just kind of putting pressure on the rump, just because I want him to get where he can deal with that. If I was to get on and accidentally touch him with my leg when I didn't mean to, I don't want him getting upset about it. Surprise, surprise, we're at the gate. Just while I'm here, does anybody have any questions about anything? Good, bad, or indifferent? Could be cold starting questions, anything about what I'm doing or something else. I don't know if you're waving to your friend or not. Nope. Anything anywhere here? All right, it's either going really, really good or really, really bad. I'm going to assume good. So get away from here one more time. I definitely don't want to end things in this neck of the woods. Again, I'm just going to try to get him to stop here. And I'm not pulling back on him, I'm just kind of guiding him sideways. Kind of keep ending up in the rails. Actually, I'm going to turn him around just a wee bit here and look for a place to make a graceful exit. So we'll see if he'll stand there. Just like to do this one more time, maybe.
I would say, folks, don't try this at home.
About one
Maybe.
before he moved.
Can we see the replay on that, please?
Bold move, Cotton.
So I'm just going to pull this guy's tack off.
While you're doing that, Jason, did you hear us talking about the extra time bank? Did you get the memo on that?
Someone gave me a quick rundown, but I didn't. It was kind of in a rush, and I didn't really get it. So I'm understanding I can take a few minutes if I need to.
Yes, sir.
And it's as long as I don't take more than 5, I don't get penalized, if I understand that correctly.
No, whatever minute you take, you lose 1 point per judge going into the finals.
How friendly are the judges?
I think they can all be bought.
Yeah. When I come out here before, I made the joke that I'm from Ontario, don't hold that too much against me. And I said, well, actually, originally I'm from Prince Edward Island. And I said, well, it could be worse. I could be from Newfoundland. And then it turns out, though, one of the judges is from Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
So I probably should have kept that one to myself.
Yeah.
If I was more nimble, that would have worked. So I might not get where I get on him, but I'm just going to get where I can pop up and lay on him, just so if that is an option later on. You ever find in winter you eat too many cookies? And then sometimes it always comes back to haunt you somewhere.
These are big colts, too. All three of them are good size.
Yeah, it's going really well. Thank you.
You're a high jumper.
Five minutes left on the timer. 5 minutes.
I might be gone in one.
That could be a movie title.
See if I can get this guy to step out just a wee bit here. Ups and daisies. Oh, we are pushing it.
Oh, way to go, Bugsy. Wow.
That went totally good. No broken bones. Everything feels good. Everything's the way it's supposed to be. We're good. And I don't really care that much about this part. If we get going, we get going. Second thought, I'd rather we didn't get going. Go on, fella. Don't get too stuck on me now. I would like to have him just walk out one time. There we go.
It's possible, you know, that we might see Jason riding Bugsy without a bridle or halter on his head the next session or two. You can see him working towards that.
You also might not see Jason riding him at all.
You might see Bugsy give you a bunny hop here in a second.
I think I'm going to look for a graceful exit, and that was it.
Anybody got a carrot?
So let's get this guy. He's kind of at the point where I feel like he's done a good deal for me, but you can kind of see him now. He's getting just a little agitated. So I'm not going to go for any extra time on him. I feel like I'm happy. Well, I was happy. I feel like if a person practiced bridling and unbridling this colt a bit, you'd be really good at picking pockets. Again, I'm going to lift up. Let that come off him like so. And then I'm happy with that part there. So I'm going to sort of end this. I think I have 2 minutes or something to that effect.
Yep, 2.5 actually.
2.5. So same as I started the session. I'm just going to spend a little time just kind of loving on him. I'll bring him up to me, stop, scratch on him, bring him up to me, stop and scratch on him, because I don't want him thinking that I'm out here doing the training to him. Sometimes when you kind of work from one thing to the next, sometimes they get where they kind of feel like you're picking on them, which is definitely not the impression I want to give with one. So I kind of like to move them around, then just kind of pet on them. Just even stand here. This colt is particular. He kind of gets a little rude with his face. So with one like that, I like to stand, put my hand just on their withers, and just kind of scratch like that. Because if they get winging their head around, I'm not really in the line of fire where they're going to whack you. Also, too, when you see two horses standing in a field, a lot of times they're going to be facing opposite directions, scratching each other on the withers with their teeth. So I feel like this is kind of a good thing to do with your colt, and just have them where they're kind of friendly and happy with you, and rub and pet on them a little bit. I'll do just a wee bit more. Draw him up. Same deal, kind of rub and pet on him. Again, I'm not rubbing him on the face, just an absolute ton, just because that is sort of where he kind of shows tension. Kind of mess with that a little bit. With that. And he's getting a little rude with his head, so I'm just going to kind of get away from him, let him sort of mentally get settled. If I can help it, I'm not going to hold him still. I'm just going to kind of rub on him until he finds a place to stop moving his feet.
30 seconds now. 30 seconds to go.
There. So now, I think I have 5 seconds left, but I think we'll kind of throw that one away. Thank you very much. I'm really happy with the Colt.
All right, let's hear it for Bugsy and Jason Irwin. Oh, what a bunch of great sessions we've had today, Kate. Man, these have been